When I was 18 years old, I moved away from home. I moved away to college, to university. I started in Los Angeles, that's where I grew up, and moved from Southern California north 600 kilometers to the San Francisco Bay Area. In my family, I had older brothers and sisters, but they hadn't moved very far. I was the pioneer, moving so far, and way back when I went away to school, of course, there was no internet, there was no email, and a telephone call was even a long-distance call. And my family didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't have any other way to communicate except to handwrite letters. And we wrote a lot. And in my third year of school, I moved away to Germany, in fact. I had an overseas year, as we call it there. And I got to live in Berlin, and I got to come to Munich, and I worked at an internship here. And once again, we wrote a lot of letters. Why? If you remember Deutsche Telekom, you'd put in 2 marks into a coin machine, into a telephone, and within 15 seconds, it would be gone if you called the US, right? So the only way I could communicate was these long, handwritten letters that would take, if not days, weeks to go one direction. And then my mother would read them to the family, and then I would get an answer back weeks later. The communication process was insanely long. In fact, my grandmother died. I didn't know about it for almost a month. It was crazy. But interestingly, my parents, since I was the youngest one, moved out of the house. They had an empty nest. They both pursued a lifelong dream of earning their degrees from college. Because as parents, they didn't ever have time to do it. They hadn't earned degrees. And at age 50 and 65, they went back to university as well. So we had a lot to talk about. We would share a lot of notes with each other about what was going on in my life, in Northern California or in Germany, and their lives back in LA. And I've saved those letters. And I have them. And I want to share a few little excerpts about that, because what came back to me when I took some time a few months ago to read some of these letters is that it was a transformative time. For me, obviously. I was 18, 19, 20 years old, living in a foreign country. But for my parents as well, particularly my mom, who did all the writing. Now, sometimes it was just boring, the humdrum of life, right? The homestead remains the same. Boxes of junk in the den, tops of tables covered with books, notebooks, Scrabble, ashtrays, and boggle. Home sweet home. Come join us in the confusion. And my mom had a sort of a black humor as well. So when you had a little sidebar, so a little backstory. Of course, when you have a pet, when you're a boy, and then you leave home, who takes care of the dog? Mom and Dad. My mom didn't enjoy that much, especially because my dog was old, and he began to pee everywhere. We're counting the days until you return. Fred as well, who has been banished, but due to illness has been once again made welcome into our abode. The dog is going blind. It appears he has cataracts. One eye is shot, the other is on its way. We are planning to get him a red-tipped cane and a seeing-eye person. Now, my mom also had an interesting philosophy about death, which we've heard about some others tonight. Side story that you have to know is that when I had moved out, my grandparents, who lived nearby, who were quite old at the time, moved in. And were in the back room of the house, living there. And it was my grandpa and my grandma, but for my mom, of course, it was her stepmom, not her real mom. So here's a note I got one time, not long after I heard about my grandma's death. We will miss you this Thanksgiving. We will also miss Grandpa. But I won't miss Grandma. Poor little creature. I think it's tragic that a person can live life and die and be so little remembered. And that's her life. I don't miss her one bit. Now, there was also, interestingly, in these letters sent to me, hopes and dreams from my mom. But the backstory here is the other important backstory. I'm the youngest of 5. My oldest brother was born with a heart defect. We knew he wouldn't live long. He lived to age 26. He became a composer, a musician, a writer. He performed in rock bands and so on. And when he died, of course, it's a crushing blow for a parent. And my mom took on the legacy of someday, somehow, bringing him back to life. It's been a strange Monday. I'm sitting here in Dad's robe. Mine has had it. I've mopped the floors, chopped the pecans, scrubbed the stove. I've done everything and anything I can to avoid practicing my violin. You see, I'm rather sick of it. It will be a hard 8 weeks ahead going through the motions. Violin lessons and orchestra. All I really want is to learn music theory so well so that I can orchestrate and arrange Steve's music. And aside from that, I also want to write my Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, which has finally been inspired, and which I have very sketchily outlined. Several years ago when I was visiting Los Angeles, my mother handed me a box. In it were all the letters that I wrote to her during this 4-year period. And I took those with me, and I did also read through all of those recently. It was a nice closure. I had read her version of the story of what she had heard from me, and now I saw the other transit. Also, a lot of handwritten letters. Now, I had moved to Germany. I was 20 years old. What did I know? Not much. But I had a few observations. Here we go. I just got back from my jog. It was freezing last night here in Munich. All the cars have ice on them. But today, it's sunny and clear. A beautiful morning for a run. But all the people I see on the street when I go out jogging think I'm verrückt. No one jogs in Germany. And then I was working hard, of course, to learn the language at the time, and I would watch television. Last night, I watched Cabaret, the movie. The songs were not dubbed, but the dialogue was, which was really odd, because Michael York is an English-speaking man, dubbed in German, teaching the Germans to speak English. And Liza Minnelli was an English speaker who couldn't speak German, but she was dubbed in perfect German, except when she dropped off her laundry in the laundromat and couldn't speak German very well because, after all, she's an American. Make sense? Think about it. And then this gem here. So I was here living in Munich as an intern, and there were a lot of other students from my university that were also sprinkled around Germany, and we all got together in the spring, and we got to share stories with each other about how it went. I'm convinced the weather makes a difference on people. Let me explain. During our intern conference, we got into a lot of discussions about why the Germans are such painstakingly precise people, too caught up to have a fun time, just relaxing. And also, we tried to no avail to figure out why Germans smoke so much, incredible amounts of cigarettes. And also, we tried to understand why they aren't so willing to take chances, but buy a lot of insurance. We concluded this has to do with the weather, because we all thought of our trips to Spain and Italy, and there the people are relaxed. Okay, maybe I wasn't that smart, but that's what I felt. A little over a year ago, my mother died. And she didn't get her book published and win the Pulitzer Prize. But she did produce my brother's music and made an amazing concert that's on YouTube, memorialized forever. And also, when she died, it wasn't anonymously, like my grandma. And I can say only one thing. These handwritten letters are something I'm very grateful for. A chance to go back and reconnect to this time in my life when she chose to share with me and I with her. Thanks for listening.